At 43, Ivanka Trump has finally opened up about her father, Donald Trump, choosing family over politics in a way few expected. For years, she's been the Trump empire's polished golden girl, balancing loyalty with self-preservation. But what happens when that balance finally tips? The breaking point came in the wake of the shocking assassination attempt on her father during a rally in Pennsylvania. After nearly 2 years of silence, she didn't return with political strategy or campaign speeches, but with something far more personal, raw emotion. "Thank you for your love and prayers for my father and for the other victims of today's senseless violence in Butler, Pennsylvania," she wrote. Then, in a deeply intimate tone, she added, "I love you, Dad, today and always." For many, that simple post spoke volumes. It wasn't just a reaction to tragedy, it was a statement of where she stands now. In 2022, she made it clear, "While I will always love and support my father, going forward I will do so outside the political arena." For someone who once served as a senior White House advisor and appeared regularly on the campaign trail, that announcement felt like a quiet earthquake inside Trump's inner circle. Since then, her absence has been impossible to ignore. She's skipped key political events, including the Republican National Convention, where her speeches once made headlines. Her husband, Jared Kushner, has been equally candid about stepping back. And while people have speculated endlessly, asking, "Where's Ivanka?" time has answered. She's keeping her distance, speaking only when it matters most, and this time, she's speaking from the heart. When asked point-blank about Ivanka's political future, the answer came without hesitation. Zero. No conditions, no maybes, just zero. For some, that blunt certainty was shocking, but it wasn't without reason. It stemmed from something far more personal than politics. In a rare, candid podcast appearance, Ivanka herself admitted, "Politics it's a pretty dark world. There's a lot of darkness, a lot of negativity, and it's just really at odds with what feels good for me as a human being." It was the kind of unfiltered honesty you don't often hear from public figures, and you could tell she meant every word. So what pulled her away from the power and visibility most people would cling to? Part of the answer lies in loss. In July 2022, Ivanka's mother, Ivana Trump, died suddenly in a tragic accident. That moment changed everything. A close friend described it as a turning point. I think losing a parent definitely leads to a real awakening. It makes you realize how short and fragile life really is. And that wasn't the only shift. While headlines speculated about her next political move, Ivanka was quietly devoting herself to her family. She took on the role of primary caregiver for her 98-year-old grandmother, a responsibility few knew about. At the same time, she was by Jared's side as he underwent 2 separate surgeries for thyroid cancer. Loss, illness, and caretaking. All of it happening while the public still expected her to show up on a campaign stage. It's no wonder she chose to step away. According to an insider, this chapter in her life has brought a kind of peace she hadn't known in years. Now Ivanka has the freedom to focus without being on the treadmill, they said. It feels really good. It's liberating. Honestly, this might be the best time of her life. That's what people often forget. Behind the headlines is a real woman making real choices, not as a political figure, but as a daughter, wife, mother, and granddaughter who simply wants a life that feels right. So when she posted that heartfelt message after the assassination attempt on her father, it wasn't calculated. It wasn't about strategy or the next election. It was about love, grief, and showing up for her dad in the most human way possible, with the simple, enduring truth. I love you, Dad, today and always. In a world that so often prizes power, image, and political maneuvering, sometimes the most powerful act is simple, unfiltered honesty. When Donald Trump announced his 2024 presidential run in November 2022, many assumed Ivanka Trump would step back into the spotlight. After all, she'd been a key player in his previous administration, a constant presence in Washington's political scene. But to the surprise of even those closest to her, Ivanka made a different choice, one that was firm, clear, and deeply personal. "I love my father very much. This time around, I am choosing to prioritize my young children and the private life we are creating as a family," she said. With those words, she closed a long and defining chapter of her public life. Walking away from the influence and energy of Washington wasn't an easy decision, but according to those who know her well, she had already given everything she could during her years in the White House. One insider put it bluntly, she left it all on the field and doesn't miss it. Ivanka didn't just step away. She stepped into something else entirely. Motherhood, family, and a more intentional life. She's now in what she calls one of the greatest times of her life, cherishing the everyday moments she once had to squeeze between political obligations. Her 3 children, Arabella, 11, Joseph, 9, and Theodore, 7, are growing up quickly, and she knows these years are fleeting. She's no longer chasing the ever-elusive work-life balance so many parents talk about. "I've thrown balance out the window," she admitted. "I don't even strive for it anymore because I don't like to intentionally set myself up for failure." Instead, she focuses on presence, being fully there for the morning conversations, school pickups, playful moments, and heart-to-heart talks. Life in Miami has given her the breathing room to live on her own terms, far from the constant flash of cameras. She's returned to the private sector, enjoying the freedom and privacy she now values above all else. But her shift in priorities wasn't random. It was shaped by deeply personal events. Chief among them was the sudden and heartbreaking loss of her mother, Ivana Trump, in July 2022. That kind of tragedy, Ivanka says, leaves a mark you can never truly prepare for. It reshaped her perspective, making her realize what and who matters most. "It hits you at the very core of who you are," Ivanka reflected when speaking about losing her mother. In the aftermath of that heartbreak, she's held on even tighter to what matters most: her children, her treasured memories, and the legacy of love Ivana left behind. She's often said that raising her kids is the most meaningful way she can honor her mother's life. On top of that, Ivanka has taken on another deeply personal role, caring for her 98-year-old grandmother, Marie Zelnikova, affectionately called Bobby. Living with the family in Miami, Bobby has become a beloved centerpiece of their home. Ivanka lights up when she talks about her, describing her as the reigning champion of family game nights and laughing about how Bobby still manages to beat everyone at Jenga. For Ivanka, stepping back from politics wasn't about retreating. It was about choosing what fills her heart. She isn't bitter about her past, nor is she ruling out a return to public service. But for now, she's set clear boundaries, ones grounded in love, loss, personal growth, and the quiet happiness of home life. Could she return someday? Maybe. But if she does, it'll be entirely on her terms and never at the expense of what she values most. Right now, Ivanka is simply a daughter, a mother, a granddaughter, and a woman determined to be fully present in each of those roles. And really, isn't that something most people, famous last name or not, can relate to? Beyond her private family life, Ivanka has been carving out a new sense of purpose through small but meaningful acts, whether it's quiet philanthropy or personal hobbies that bring her joy. Since leaving the political stage in Washington, she's been focused on living in a way that feels more grounded, more personal, and, some might say, more authentically human. It's almost as though she's been on a deliberate mission to reinvent herself, far from the constant glare of cameras and the pull of power. And how has she been doing it? Not with headline-grabbing speeches or high-profile media tours, but through something much quieter, hands-on community service. Those close to her say she's thrown herself into volunteering with a dedication and energy that even surprises people who knew her during her time in the White House. Those who've seen her in action insist she's not doing it for show, nor is she chasing some rebranded kind of fame. They say Ivanka truly means it, showing up, rolling up her sleeves, and working quietly, far from the cameras. After Hurricane Helene devastated western North Carolina, she partnered with CityServe and flew in, not just to lend her name, but to personally hand out hot meals, supplies, and other essentials to families who had lost nearly everything. And this wasn't a one-off. In the wake of Hurricane Ian, she was spotted in Florida, cooking in large community kitchens, making sure first responders in Fort Myers and Naples were fed and cared for. She wasn't there for photo ops, one volunteer recalled. She was right beside us, sweating, sorting supplies, cooking, and talking with families. It was genuine. Her volunteer work has extended beyond hurricanes. When wildfires swept through parts of Los Angeles, Ivanka showed up again, helping coordinate logistics, chatting with exhausted firefighters, and standing alongside other volunteers in emergency shelters, handing out blankets and saying simple but heartfelt words. Thank you for being here. But her commitment isn't limited to disaster relief. In Miami, she's become a regular presence at the Jewish Community Services Kosher Food Bank, which supports more than 400 families a year, including 70 Holocaust survivors and 225 children. Those who've worked with her say she doesn't just drop off groceries and leave. She lingers, listens to stories, and offers hugs. Sometimes she even brings her children, showing them firsthand what it means to give back. It's a far cry from the polished political figure the public once knew. This Ivanka, the one helping an elderly survivor carry a food box to her car, or sitting at a folding table sharing tea with someone recounting their childhood, feels like a woman who has traded power for purpose. Friends say this new chapter has brought her peace. She's no longer chasing headlines. Instead, she's chasing moments, human connections, personal stories, and quiet acts of kindness that rarely make the news. She's told them that helping someone rebuild after a storm or listening to an elderly woman's life story at the food bank has brought her more satisfaction than any high-stakes political meeting ever could. It makes you wonder, was this side of Ivanka always there, just hidden under the weight and demands of politics? Sure, there will always be skeptics who question motives when a public figure takes such a sharp turn. But maybe, just maybe, this chapter of her life isn't about reinventing herself for the public, it's about rediscovering who she's always been. After all, some of the most meaningful journeys begin right after we walk away from the life we once thought we wanted. In recent years, Ivanka Trump has been quietly reshaping her life in ways that are far more grounded than anyone might expect. While she's stepped out of the political spotlight, she's been leaning into personal growth, without the gloss of influencer culture. Her approach is real, a mix of hard work, sweat, and even a little dirt under her nails. One of the most surprising changes? She's taken up jiu-jitsu seriously. Training with the renowned Valente brothers in Miami, she's already earned her blue belt. The journey began when her daughter Arabella asked to take self-defense classes. That one request snowballed into something bigger. The entire family got involved. What started as a way to help her daughter feel safe became a shared family discipline, a reminder that small choices can lead to life-changing habits. Her adventures don't end on the mat. Ivanka has also developed a passion for surfing, riding waves in Costa Rica, and even testing her skills at Kelly Slater's world-famous surf ranch. It's an image few might have predicted. Ivanka Trump, the former first daughter, out in the ocean carving through waves. But perhaps reinvention is simply part of what it means to keep growing. And while she's building strength in the ocean and on the mat, she's also found peace in something far more down to earth: gardening. She calls it a cherished tradition in her home, not for perfectly manicured flower beds, but for the time it gives her with her kids. For her, it's about digging in the dirt together, planting seeds side by side and creating moments that will last long after the flowers fade. It's less about the garden itself and more about the memories they grow in it. It makes you wonder, how many people only rediscover the beauty of simplicity after walking away from chaos? Ivanka hasn't vanished from professional life. She's just shifted gears and turned down the volume. Real estate, a field that's always been in her DNA, is once again at the heart of her career. But unlike her high-profile branding days, she's now focusing on long-term, low-key investments. One of her latest projects is a massive 1,400-acre island development in Albania. Yes, Albania. It's not splashed across the headlines every week, but those close to her say she's hands-on and deeply committed. It feels like she's returned to her roots, but this time with more wisdom and far less noise. In fact, some say Ivanka is more influential now than she's ever been. Although she publicly stepped back from politics after her father left office, insiders say Ivanka has never truly left the scene. She's become a discreet but steady presence behind the curtain, choosing not to be front and center, yet still shaping the action from the wings. It's an unusual balance, publicly absent, privately engaged. Friends of the family note that she still speaks with her father regularly, particularly on matters that carry weight, whether it's political strategy, campaign messaging, or advice on navigating certain advisors. But she does it on her own terms. No speeches, no rallies, no press interviews. Just quiet counsel. Those who have been in the room say she still has her father's full attention, especially when a softer touch or a more polished approach is needed. Ivanka has always had a way of connecting with audiences. Donald Trump sometimes struggles to reach women, suburban voters, young professionals. He knows it, and he values it. Her business acumen only strengthens that trust. With a sharp understanding of branding, messaging, and the nuances of presentation, skills she honed long before her political chapter, Ivanka remains a behind-the-scenes player whose influence is felt even if it's rarely seen. While many assumed Ivanka had completely stepped away after declining a formal role in her father's 2024 campaign, insiders insist she still offers advice, especially when he's facing pivotal decisions. What's remarkable is how she's managed to preserve a personal image that feels softer and more apolitical than before. These days, she's spending more time with her children, staying active in philanthropy and wellness projects, and appearing at cultural and fashion events rather than political ones. It's almost like she's been quietly rebranding herself without cutting the cord that links her to the Trump legacy. Some might question whether it's even possible to distance yourself from something as polarizing as Trump-era politics without walking away completely. But somehow, Ivanka has found the formula. She remains in the loop, just not in the spotlight. Her subtle presence, off-stage, behind the scenes, often says more than any public speech could. While she may not be standing at campaign rallies or delivering fiery sound bites, her influence is still very much in play. This isn't a disappearance. It's a deliberate repositioning. And in a world that thrives on noise, her silence might be speaking the loudest. While the political landscape has shifted dramatically since the Trump administration left Washington, Jared Kushner has hardly faded from view. In fact, he's stayed surprisingly active, particularly in the Middle East, where he built a deep network during his time as senior advisor to the president. Those close to him say he never let go of the momentum from the Abraham Accords, the landmark agreements that normalized relations between Israel and several Arab nations. Rather than retreat into full private life, Jared took a different approach. He launched Affinity Partners, a private investment firm that, while certainly a business venture, also serves as a gateway to high-level geopolitical discussions. Through this work, he's maintained close ties with key leaders in the region, contacts who came to know and trust him during the Trump presidency. It's a reminder that some people might leave public office, but they never truly leave the game. According to insiders, Jared's ties in the Middle East go far beyond investments or market opportunities. These relationships have kept him connected to the region's most important conversations about its future. Some believe the warmth he still receives from key leaders is rooted less in business and more in the role he once played in getting countries to the negotiating table, something even his critics hadn't expected him to achieve. Those who followed his trajectory say that while his current work isn't officially linked to the U.S. government, it still creates subtle ripple effects in American foreign policy. He's managed to retain influence without a formal title or a White House security badge, a calculated way to stay relevant. In many ways, it feels like a quieter, more strategic continuation of the Trump family's presence in global affairs. This time, instead of press briefings and state dinners, his influence plays out in boardrooms and through private diplomatic calls. Supporters say his approach is deliberate. Build trust, stay consistent, and let your track record speak for itself. Critics, however, question why someone from a former administration still appears to have such direct access to international power players while living as a private citizen. But perhaps that's the point. True influence doesn't always sit in the Oval Office. Sometimes it operates in the background, shaping dialogue and strengthening alliances in ways the public rarely witnesses. One thing is certain. Jared Kushner's story with the Middle East isn't over, and the region seems just as unwilling to close the chapter. If Jared is still quietly playing chess on the world stage, it raises the question, what does that say about the rest of the Trump family? For years, the Trumps were more than just a family. They were a brand, a tightly knit unit where personal relationships and political power were deeply intertwined. But over time, that dynamic has subtly, yet unmistakably, changed. Observers began to notice a shift. Ivanka Trump, once the polished public face of the Trump business empire and a key advisor during her father's presidency, no longer appeared at his side as often. Her absence didn't come with a big announcement or a public rift. It was more like a gradual retreat, a slow and deliberate fade from the constant glare of the spotlight. While many speculated that Ivanka's reduced public presence meant she'd cut ties or lost her influence, the reality was much more nuanced. Behind closed doors, she still held her place, not through speeches or campaign appearances, but through quiet, behind-the-scenes influence that didn't need cameras to make an impact. Naturally, people began to wonder, if Ivanka wasn't standing beside her father every day, who was? The answer soon became clear. Her brothers, Donald Trump Jr. and Eric Trump. They had always been part of the picture, but now they were stepping into more prominent roles as their father's political ambitions reignited. Don Jr. became the outspoken voice in the media, defending the family brand at every turn, while Eric took on more of the operational responsibilities. To some, it was a natural shift. To others, a strategic reshuffling. Either way, they were no longer in the background. But Ivanka's absence from center stage didn't mean she was out of the game. Family insiders say she continued to play a role, just in a more private way. Intimate family dinners, one-on-one phone calls, and quiet strategy talks during evenings in Palm Beach became her new arenas of influence. She'd found a way to protect her peace while still keeping a pulse on the family's direction. Isn't that something many people strive for? The ability to step back without being shut out? This quieter role actually helped maintain family balance. With everyone operating in their own lane, there was less competition for the spotlight and fewer internal power struggles. Ivanka focused on her family, her business ventures, and life beyond the constant churn of politics. Her brothers leaned into the public battles with renewed energy. And Donald Trump, the patriarch, navigated it all, sometimes clashing, sometimes coordinating, but always aware of where each child stood. So, when people ask what changed in the Trump family dynamic, the answer isn't some explosive feud or dramatic split, it's evolution. Ivanka stepped back, her brothers stepped forward, and the family kept moving without falling apart. In the end, it's not always about who's the most visible. Even in one of America's most public families, the quiet roles can be the most influential.